All right, so it's not too often that I demand we do a new release, because generally I don't like a lot of new releases, because I like older stuff. However, this album, White Stiff by White Denim, I checked out like 3 songs, and purchase was made after like 3 songs. So,
Nice.
special edition white vinyl, of course. Yeah, this 2016 release. We're about a week out of it. Never even heard of the band. I was checking out Spotify's. It wasn't the Discovery. It was just new releases. So I was checking out all, and like, nope, nope, nope. And then I hear this, and I hear the opening riff of Had to Know, and I'm like, whoa. So I started checking more and more and more. And this album was just amazing to me. It's not like the greatest thing I've ever heard, but it was definitely kind of a standout, refreshing sound for something to come out in 2016. So before I just gush all over it, I'll let one of you guys start it off.
Well, the first thing I would say about it is, like you said, it sounds like it's from like the 60s or 70s, like somewhere right around there. And again, they're a very collective sound. Like, I mean, it's got kind of like a Beck/Beatles feel to it, and then some of it's like a southern rock kind of mix in there as well. It was a great combination of things. I really dug this album. I was kind of surprised that I did like it as much, and it's not like that for the whole album either too. Because like at one point it takes a complete 180, and they're doing some like old school R&B kind of stuff. Real like Teddy Pendergrass feel to it. It's great. Take It Easy, I think, was a song that I particularly cared for. That was my favorite song on this album.
That's cool. The one that I had down. It has like a classic soul feel to it.
Yes.
What do you got, Jessica?
Agreed. Well, this was an album I enjoyed it top to bottom. I felt like it was a release that was maybe 30, well, maybe even 40 years too late in some instances, perhaps, just as far as the songs on it. I know a few people who have fairly limited taste whenever it comes to new music, and this was an album that I played some songs, a few tracks for them, and they all really enjoyed it, which was what I thought would happen. And I thought that was really cool, as far as at least a segue to perhaps some closed-minded people, that there's still music being made that stays very true to rock and roll. And that's what I took away from this album, is that I feel that this is a rock and roll album from top to bottom. And yes, it definitely is influenced by a number of genres. You can feel that soul in it. You can feel it has progressive elements to it. But really what it is it is a rock and roll album all the way through. I loved it. I say I loved it. I liked it a lot. I thought it was incredibly solid. Will I buy this on vinyl because I like the concept of owning an album like this on vinyl? Yes. Will I listen to it all the time? No. In fact, I will probably jam this and it will be background music for me. It wasn't something that I found incredibly stimulating in any other sense, other than it had total grooves. Melody lines went with said grooves. Instrumentation was all on point. It was good music. It was upbeat music, which I'm not necessarily looking for unless I'm cleaning the house or doing something like that. But I did find myself jamming this album. I would say I've listened to this album 5 times over the last week, just doing stuff.
Awesome.
And it was great soundtrack music for life. It was a good life soundtrack. Not the deepest stuff. It's not something I want to listen to when I feel like having feels. But when I'm walking around just living life and have earbuds in and want soundtrack to that, this was a great album for it.
I don't think you could have said it any better, because I don't think there was much substance to this lyrically. They'll deal with me in lyrics, but just from what I could hear, it sounded more just like a rock and roll band. But there was so much variety, and the thing that got me more than anything was these songs are short and they're catchy. I mean, yep. I was like humming these melodies, and a lot of it was even the vocal melodies over the instruments that were standing out to me. And the first 2 songs, You Had to Know, and I guess it's Ha 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 Ha. That's a total funk sound. And I'll just run through kind of the different sounds. I mean, there's little bit of psychedelic. There's some southern rock. We covered the soul. There's some funk. There's some stuff that sounds like it kind of reminded me of like T-Rex, like the early glam stuff. And then it ends with almost a prog-sounding rock song with "Thank You." I mean, so you're just you're just like up and then down and then maybe up and down and then back, and then it just kind of fizzles out into this kind of weird prog song. So I thought the album was laid out really well. It doesn't, like, every single song is fantastic, but I guess I start not paying as much attention to where they start slowing it down a little bit. But then I go back and listen to it, and that's kind of what makes the album. So even though I don't necessarily love the song, it's like if I'm going to listen to it, I have to listen and like all these songs, and they start growing on me as I listen to the full album. So, which is, that's how albums used to be made, and that's how they're supposed to be made. It's hard for people to comprehend that in an iTunes singles generation, but that's my thought.
That was something, actually, I played some of these tracks for my friend Doug, and that was what he said on those tracks that did have that slower feel to it, more of that soul feel to it. It's not so much his style compared to the straight rock and roll tracks. But then he stopped and paused and said, I actually might dig that if I went back and listened to it again. And I thought, that's awesome. Just kind of looking at it. Yeah, I thought it was super cool. So, yeah, he had that experience with it as well.
I can get that about that. Like, one of my favorite singers at first, I'm like, no, I cannot stand this. And then I hear it a few more times, and I'm like, this might be the best thing I've ever heard. Like Justin Timberlake was like that for me. I was like, oh, God, it's singing. And now I'm like, if you talk trash on Justin Timberlake, I'm gonna knock you out right here on the spot. Not that serious, but I love him. But I was like that at first with it. I was like, nah, this is stupid. This is horrible. But maybe I was just in denial. Yeah, no, this album was really good. I liked it a lot, surprisingly. Again, this is like a southern progressive rock, so this is the third progressive rock thing that I've really dug. This
wasn't as out there as some of the other stuff we've been sending you, though. So.
Right.
No, that's very true. Yeah. Maybe you guys are the reason that I've been all off this week, because you guys make me listen to all this random, crazy progressive rock music, and I'm not used to it. And it's
our fault, Dan.
It's entirely possible. Yeah.
It's all our fault, buddy.
Yeah.
All right, so we've basically been praising this thing, but we can't do an album and not say anything negative. So what do you guys? I basically said mine. Just a couple of these songs were, like okay, but then when I listen to them in the album form, they end up being a little bit better. So what do you guys got?
I didn't care enough about the lyrics to pay attention to them enough to derive any meaning from them. So I felt like the songs, they're beboppy, and like I said, I want it on as background background noise. It's white noise to me. It's white noise that totally jams and is completely solid, but it's just that at the end of the day to me.
Robbie, what do you got?
I'm pretty much on the same page with Justman. I mean, the lyrics didn't really grab me up and make me listen to them. I didn't have a drive to listen to a lot of them, but the music was great. I listened to this album several times and probably will again. So, I mean, really, as far as negativity goes, I just, like I said, it wasn't very lyric-driven, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Not everything has to be lyric-driven. So, that's the only complaint I have about it, really, man. That's it. Overall, it was an awesome album.
I don't want to listen to lyric-driven music in certain moods. There's sometimes that I want to put something on that just grooves, or that the lyrics mean nothing or something. And whenever I want to listen to something that just grooves, this is going to be my go-to album, I think, for a little while as far as that.
Just to ease the mind, kind of.
Do you think that if this would have been a lyric-driven album, that it would have maybe gotten lost anyway because of how the music is structured? We would have been trying to, nodding our head and getting down with it and not paying attention to the lyrics anyway. I don't know.
I like to think that those things can all exist simultaneously. And maybe I'm lofty because I make music that I want to do both of those things. Mm-hmm. But I feel like those things could exist simultaneously, done correctly.
Yeah, and I'm not disagreeing. I just thought it was an interesting thing to throw out there since we were talking about how funky the music was. So, Let's just go ahead and jump into the rating. I don't think we've got much else to say. Oh, did you guys have a favorite song?
Well, I really liked. First, I really liked the in the one Big Big Fun. That was super
Yeah.
cool. Real funky, sweet use of organs. I love organs in music. So I really like that one a lot. So that one and Take It Easy were probably my favorites.
Jessamine, you got anything?
I really liked Hold of You, and the one that I can't get out of my head, so I don't know if it's my favorite or it's Jessamine's earworm of the week is ha 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 yeah.
Yep,
Ha,
that's the
ha,
one.
ha, yeah. And I find myself just, I'm at work, I'm pacing back and forth, and I just bust out into it. Somebody goes, "What are you doing?" And I just look right at him, and then just ha 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 yeah. Can't help it. Can't help it.
I agree. That song gets stuck in my head even when I'm not listening to this. Actually, yesterday, I hadn't listened to the album in a few days, and yesterday that song popped into my head out of nowhere. I wouldn't even listen to these guys. But that song, Had to Know and Hold of You, which really reminds me of the Allman Brothers.
Yep, me too. We talked about that at work, Stan. That is what my buddy Doug said
All right.
as well. That's exactly
There you go.
Yep, it's exactly awesome.
All right, so rating time. 1 star being the worst, 5 stars being the best. Jessamine, you can start.
I'm gonna give this album a 3 1/4. It was solid all the way through. Lyrics being lyrically, if it had a bit more depth, I would have given it a better rating. It's better than just a midway 2.5 star album. I think it's slightly better than 3, but I'm not going to do 3.5. So 3 1/4 for me.
Robbie?
I give it 3.5. It was a great album. It's fun. It's not like the greatest album ever released, but I really liked it. I've listened to it multiple times, and like I said, will again. And I will definitely be forcing this on to people. I find myself doing that, like, hey, you have to listen to this, and make them listen to it. But this is one of those albums I'll do that with. But 3.5, I think that's a fair rating for this album. Because like Jessamine said, a little more depth in the lyrics, probably would have gave it a little bit better of a rating. But 3.5, I think, is fair.
And of course, I'm going to give this a high rating, but the reason why is how catchy this thing is. I like heavy music, I like metal, and I like guitar riffs, and that's the riffs and the music composition, like it exists in here,
Right.
but it's just how catchy everything is, and actually the vocal melodies get me hooked more than anything on here. I ended up giving it a 4.5 because
Whoa.
I can't stop listening to it. But again, like that may half of that is because of how catchy it is and the vocal melodies. Some of these songs, like I like other albums much better that I might give a lower rating to, but they're not as catchy. And like these songs get stuck in my head over and over again. But it's not like a bad pop song that gets stuck in your head over and over again, if that makes sense. So
Right.
with all three of us together, that averages us out to 3 3/4. So yeah, pretty good.
Zan,
Not
I've
too
got
bad,
a really,
and it's
I've
a
got
really
quick
sweet
question.
album art.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh.
Oh yeah. You want to see the album art one more
The
time?
album art, yes.
All right, here it is. If you want to see it.
That's how I pulled someone in. I said, hey, do you want to see a music video that starts out with underwear with a bunch of cacti out of it? They're like, I think so. All right, cool. My question for you is, whenever you said you can't stop listening to it, are you listening to it on vinyl?
I've listened to it twice through on vinyl, and then the other times when I was making additional notes on Spotify.
Okay. Do you think that having it on vinyl has affected your opinion of it? Just because I feel like it's an album that needs to be heard on vinyl rather than... Okay.
No, the reason I have it, and this is what I do, and there was a whole article out on this. You would have to Google it to find it because I don't remember what it was called, but it was an article about how everybody says Spotify's killing music, but actually vinyl sales are even higher once again this year than they have been. And if it wasn't for Spotify, I would never found this band. But the minute I listened to like half the album, I was already on Amazon ordering the vinyl the day that it came out. So that's what I do.
Yeah.
If I listen to an album and I think it's average, on Spotify that is, because I'm still not going to download anything illegally or legally. No downloading for me. But if I think it's average, if I can get a good deal on it, I might buy it. But if it's something I really, really like, I physically purchase the music, and that's why I own the vinyl. So.
Awesome. Robbie,
All right, so
he loves Spotify so much. He wants to marry Spotify. He's in love with Spotify.
You're welcome,
You
Zane.
sold him, son.
Zane.
You sold
I
him,
know,
son.
I know. I'm still not paying for premium,
They should
though. I'm
pay
too much
me.
of a cheapskate.
Well,
We'll see.
I think
We'll
Spotify
see.
should pay me because I turn people onto Spotify all the time. I need to get.
Hey, maybe you should hit them up for that. You never know. They may give you something.
Right.
Maybe even a month of premium service.
A sticker.
Hey, I already paid for it. So. Yeah, they could not give me anything, and I'm still going to use it. So.
All right, guys. Thanks for checking out the review. Don't forget to check us out on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Check us out on YouTube, Stitcher, iTunes, and Podomatic. Please rate, review, and subscribe. Spread the word. Check us out. Until next time, see you later.